The Blues have it all to do in the remaining 2 games of this State of Origin series after their 38-10 loss at Sydney Olympic Park in Game 1. It's a scoreline which didn't quite tell the full story of the game though, with the match obviously being defined by Joseph Suaalii's controversial high shot on Reece Walsh, which saw him become the fastest player to be sent off in State of Origin history. But Origin has a habit of flipping momentum very quickly. There's only been 2 clean sweep series in the 21st century, so history tells us that the Blues are a really good chance of winning this next game and taking us to a decider in Brisbane. Not to mention that the Blues have never lost a game at the MCG. There's a bunch of different reasons why I think this, but yeah, I do genuinely believe that the Blues are a really good chance of winning Game 2. Let's start with the reasons that stem from Game 1, because to me, that match should have played out much worse than it did for the Blues. I'm a New South Welshman, and as I sat there watching Suaalii's tackle, which by the way was absolutely a send-off, I really thought that the objective for the rest of the game was just to make sure that it didn't get embarrassing. And anyone who watched that game would know that New South Wales absolutely achieved that goal. Don't get me wrong, they were rocked early and even conceded a pretty simple try while Suaalii was still on the field. But the way the Blues rallied in the face of adversity was super impressive. They played like they genuinely believed the game was there to be won at a time where probably everyone in New South Wales had accepted that it wasn't. There was a 43-minute period in the game where the scoreline was actually 4-0 to the Blues. That is absolutely remarkable in an Origin game with 1 man down. They played with a spirit that we could be proud of, defined by plays like Liam Martin putting Jermaine Hopgood flat on his back. To any Queenslanders that say New South Wales just don't get Origin, have a look at that tackle. By the back end of the game, when Queensland scored 3 tries in 15 minutes, you could tell that New South Wales had just used up everything they had in the tank. And that is all you can expect from a sports team. At the end of the game, I was super disappointed at the result, but I was very proud of the team, which was a really weird feeling. But it gave me confidence that if we had had 13 players on the field, we could well have won that game. I'm not saying that we would have, but we showed that we could have, and I take a heap of positives out of that. Now, coming into Game 1, there were a number of selection decisions that I really disagreed with, none more so than our 4-forward bench. It showed a really clear game plan to just overpower the Maroons if everything went well, but very little flexibility if things went wrong, and we all know how that played out. In the modern games with HIAs and sin bins and even just the fast-paced nature of modern rugby league, I thought it was a really weird decision to not have a little guy on the bench. Now, I didn't expect Maguire to change that strategy coming into Game 2, because going into Game 1 he knew the risks and seemed to make a decision that it was worth taking a chance. It's not like the odds of an outside back going down have changed from Game 1 to Game 2. But that being said, I do think we've landed at the right decision in picking Connor Watson. Now, I love Watson. He is easily one of my favourite players in the NRL. He's just the archetypal 14, and I am absolutely over the moon that New South Wales have selected him. Few people know this, but when he left the Newcastle Knights, he was set to sign for St Helens in England and replace their legendary hooker James Roby. He called up his former coach Trent Robinson, who had coached in the Super League, for his perspective on that move. By the end of that conversation, Robinson said that if Watson came to the Roosters and focused on being a 14, he believed that one day Watson could be picked in that position in State of Origin. That's what got him to the Roosters, and now here we are. He is an absolute ball of energy, and in the momentum-based style that rugby league has become, he is a super effective player. Then you've got the name on everybody's lips, Latrell Mitchell. He is easily the most polarizing player in the NRL, and there's a number of reasons why that is the case. But as a Blues fan right now, none of that stuff matters to me. He missed out on selection for Game 1 after showing poor form to start the year, but Mark Maguire noted his turnaround in performances over the last month. I absolutely accept that we're picking a player who can be volatile and putting him in the most volatile arena in rugby league. But 1, he's played Origin 7 times before for 5 wins and 6 tries, and 2, New South Wales are in a position where we have to roll the dice. Latrell is the player Queensland didn't want us to pick. That's enough for me. I'm happy to live by the sword and die by the sword when it comes to him, because we're facing an uphill battle anyway. Plus, a left edge of Jerome Luai, Angus Crichton, Latrell Mitchell and Brian To'o, geez, that has the potential to be really, really effective. This was simply the decision that had to be made. Now, the other big one is the halfback position. I'm a really big fan of Nico Hines, but I have said for a couple of years now that his off-the-cuff style of playing halfback wouldn't work against the best of the best in State of Origin. I just never thought he'd be given enough time and space in Origin to do what he does at the NRL level. And as sad as I was to see it, I do think that is how it played out in Game 1. Granted, he was my halfback pick for Game 1, with Nathan Cleary, Adam Reynolds and Mitchell Moses all unavailable, but I do think the right decision has been made in bringing Moses back in now. In Game 1, the Blues' total kicking metres was exactly one more than Queensland, so on paper that doesn't seem like an area for concern, until you hear that the Blues put in 1.5 times as many kicks as Queensland did. Now that's not a perfect metric because it puts long distance kicks and bombs in the same category, but when the difference is that big, you know something is wrong. Moses has had some really good moments without being brilliant since returning from injury, but that is one area in which he is distinctly better than Hines. And like Latrell, Moses has done it in Origin before. He was halfback in New South Wales' only win last year. He's done the job before and I'm confident he will do the job again. The other names who weren't there in Game 1 are Dylan Edwards and Cameron Murray, two players whose performances speak for themselves and who really embody what Origin is about. Murray is a stalwart of the New South Wales side and was really strong in his only start in the lock position in Game 3 last year. Bringing him back in after only one game back from injury for Souths is a bit of a risk, but if there's anyone that I back in that situation, it's Cameron Murray. I reckon if he was fit for Game 1, there's a distinct chance he would have been given the captaincy, and I've got absolute confidence that he's going to do the job that the state demands from him. Then you've got the long-awaited debut of Dylan Edwards after he was ruled out of Game 1 at the last minute. His quality is undeniable, and he's another one of these guys who will simply get through their work and lay a platform, allowing the likes of Leaguie, Stephen Crichton and Latrell Mitchell to put the icing on the cake. He's a very different style to the razzle-dazzle of Reece Walsh, but if you told me he was the better fullback, I would find it pretty hard to disagree. Plus, a head as spherical as that belongs in the Origin arena. On paper, I think this is not only a better side than what New South Wales had in Game 1, but I think it's a stronger side than Queensland have named as well. Queensland have their own strengths, which I'll get to in the next video, but if New South Wales bring the same spirit they played with in Game 1 into Game 2, they're going to be really hard to stop. In my opinion, their best is better than Queensland's best. So, in essence, the only thing stopping them from winning this game is themselves. It's one of the biggest coaching tests in the long career of Michael Maguire, so it's going to be fascinating to see how he responds to that challenge. But I think Blues fans have cause to be excited. Enjoy your Origin football.